Russian dictator Vladimir Putin justifies the full-scale invasion, among other things, by liberating Russian-speaking regions. In reality, the territories under Russian occupation are subject to mass looting. This is stated in an investigation by Le Figaro. Russian occupation forces have confiscated, or in fact seized, at least 25,000 residential properties in Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions. This campaign has been ongoing since 2014. Under the guise of ownerless property, Moscow is seizing houses and apartments belonging to Ukrainians who are not listed in Russian registries. In reality, this amounts to a systematic expropriation of other people's property. The largest number of cases were recorded in Mariupol. At least 13,000 apartments and houses fell under the control of Russian occupiers. Back in March, the BBC reported that more than 5,700 properties had lost their rightful owners as a result of Russian aggression. Large-scale confiscations are also taking place in other towns and villages. In Energodar, where most residents fled the occupation, their homes have been occupied by Russian forces. In Donetsk, apartments in central districts are being confiscated. In the mining towns of Bryanka near Luhansk, which has become a military logistics hub for the Russian armed forces, the authorities plan to seize approximately 400 apartments in old Soviet-era buildings. In the resort town of Kyrylivka, in the Zaporizhzhia region, not only houses but also hotels, restaurants and sanatoriums, at least 70 properties, have been confiscated. In most cases, housing is transferred to Russian military personnel, intelligence officers and government officials. Furthermore, as a reward for their participation in the aggression against Ukraine, veterans of the so-called SVO receive land plots and apartments. In Crimea, according to official data, approximately 2,500 such individuals have already become owners of land by the sea. If the houses aren't occupied by security forces or officials, they are sold at auction. According to Gunola Inizan, a researcher at Lumière Lyon 2 University, the main goal of the confiscation is to enrich the state. In the first 6 months of 2025 alone, the Kremlin earned over 24 million euros from the nationalization of Ukrainian property in occupied Crimea. The confiscation system is also used to impose Russian citizenship. Since October 2023, proof of housing rights can only be obtained with a Russian passport. In March 2025, Moscow announced the issuance of 3.5 million Russian documents in the so-called new regions. This policy, as Le Figaro notes, not only legitimizes the seizure of other people's property, but also complicates the process of future deoccupation. Imagine that liberation does happen. I walk into my house, open the door, and see Russians there claiming they paid, took out a loan, and now this is their home. What will happen next? Said Vera Yastrebova, director of the Ukrainian human rights organization Eastern Human Rights Group, whose home in Debaltsev was seized by Russian troops. The mass confiscation of Ukrainian property demonstrates the Kremlin's true goals, not the protection of the Russian world, but the legalized plunder of territory and the destruction of the property rights of Ukrainian citizens. What is currently happening in the occupied territories is causing discontent and even rebellion among the local population against Moscow. It is not excluded that the wave of rebellion will grow further.
U.S. President Donald Trump told Israeli lawmakers on Monday that their country had no more to achieve on the battlefield and must work toward peace in the Middle East after 2 years of war against Hamas and skirmishes with Hezbollah and Iran. Now at last, not only for Israelis, but also for Palestinians and for many others, the long and painful nightmare is finally over, he declared to the Knesset. According to Associated Press, although the US-brokered truce between Israel and Hamas remains fragile, Trump is determined to seize an opportunity to chase an elusive regional harmony. Trump pressed Israel to look past the war, saying the country has won all that they can by force of arms. "You've won. I mean, you've won," he said. "Now it is time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East." Trump said a peace deal in the region had been secured by the bombing of Iran's key nuclear facilities during the country's brief war with Israel earlier this year. "If we didn't do that, and assuming we made the same deal that we have today, there'd be a dark cloud over this deal. And number one, it wouldn't happen because the other Arab and Muslim nations really wouldn't feel comfortable making the deal that we have now, right?" he said. "We took a big cloud off of the Middle East and off of Israel," he added.
The United States of America grieved alongside you, and we mourned for our own citizens who were so viciously taken that day. And to all the families whose lives were forever changed by the atrocities of that day, and all of the people of Israel, please know that America joins you in those two everlasting vows: never forget and never again. From October 7th until this week, Israel has been a nation at war, enduring burdens that only a proud and faithful people could withstand. It was a very tough period of time. For so many families across this land, it has been years since you've known a single day of true peace. But now at last, not only for Israelis, but also for Palestinians and for many others, the long and painful nightmare is finally over. And as the dust settles, the smoke fades, the debris is removed, and the ashes cleaned from the air, the day that breaks on a region transformed, and a beautiful and much brighter future appears suddenly within your reach. This is now a very exciting time for Israel and for the entire Middle East, because all across the Middle East, the forces of chaos, terror, and ruin that have plagued the region for decades now stand weakened, isolated, and totally defeated. A new coalition of proud and responsible nations is emerging, and because of us, the enemies of all civilization are in retreat. But many of Iran's top terrorists, including nuclear scientists and commanders, have been extinguished from this earth. And with Operation Midnight Hammer, boy, that's a great name for that, what we did last June. The United States military flew 7 of those beautiful B-2 bombers. They look so beautiful all of a sudden. They were always, I thought they were pretty planes. I had no idea they could do what they did. So we dropped 14 bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally, as I said originally, obliterating them. And that's been confirmed, and everybody understands it. Together we stopped the #1 state sponsor of terror from obtaining the world's most dangerous weapons. And if you think about it, if we didn't do that, and assuming we made the same deal that we have today, there'd be a dark cloud over this deal. And #1, it wouldn't happen because the other Arab and Muslim nations really wouldn't feel comfortable making the deal that we have now, right? If Iran had that nuclear weapon that they were about 2 months away from having. They would have had it in 2 months or maybe less than that. They were right at, this was our last shot. We took a big cloud off of the Middle East and off of Israel.